Now, I noticed that this is a thing in most European countries. Whether you're in France, whether you're in Italy or Britain, you will usually come across the saying that there should be an IQ test required for people to vote. And this is something that you hear in the United States. Like, you really cannot go through life for more than 10 years without being in an environment, whether it's at a bar or a party or, a family gathering, where someone is now going to say something in the lines that stupid people shouldn't vote. And normally you don't think about it because it's just a thing that people say and you've heard it so many times. And you're usually, just nodding in agreement. But if you stop and think about it, you realize that there is some essence to what is being said. And the essence isn't like stupid people shouldn't vote. It's more like uninformed people shouldn't vote, because the reality is that it's not really about concepts that people wouldn't be able to understand if it was explained to them. But it's the fact that no one is trying to explain these concepts to people. It's not in the interest of the establishment to explain any of these concepts. Like, you go through school and you learn a lot of useless shit in school. You learn about hyper complex numbers, and you may learn about the quantum physics, and you also learn important stuff about the LGBTs. But the reality is you genuinely do not know anything about logistics, how to start a company, how to pay your own taxes, how the economy works, what is supply and demand. Like, none of these things are actually taught, right? They do not teach you in school how to invest in the stock market or what to do with money if you have a lot of them, right? So this is not on purpose. It's not accidental. It's not that they wouldn't be able to teach people on how to do these things. They do not want to teach people. And this is because you then have politicians that can basically promise stuff with other people's money so that they get elected. They can promise that, oh, we're going to abolish the student debt, or we're going to make public education a universal thing. Everyone is going to go to university. Isn't that great, right? So, like, they're promising these things, and these things are not done out of their pocket. They're done out of the taxpayer pocket. And then when they get elected, they can make decisions that can actually drive the nation into debt, but they don't have to pay for that debt, right? Like, they're the politician. They already get paid from the taxpayer money. Eventually, they may lose an election. They step down. And the debt that they cause to the entire nation is never going to follow them. It's going to follow other people. So here's an example of literally that, right? Harris to propose up to $25,000 in down payment support for first-time home buyers, right? So, like, after you notice how well the student debt thing worked, to the point where the government had to step in and basically forgive people for making student debt. Now they're like, okay, well, we understand that in the future people will still get into student debt. So what we're going to do is we're also going to get people to potentially go into debt for first time buying a house. Now, this isn't the issue in and of itself. The issue in and of itself is never asking the public the question, why are houses so expensive? Right? Like, this should be a question that's asked. Like, for instance, in Romania, a house that has 4 rooms and is in a very posh neighborhood can be around $100,000, right? And the exact same house, probably even more poorly built, with worse materials, with worse conditions in California, can be all the way up to $1 million. So the politician never asks the public, why is it that houses are expensive here and they're cheap there, right? Because it's still the same product at the end of the day. It's still a house, and in some cases, the product is even better. And no one has asked this question. This is not part of any public debate. This is not mentioned anywhere. And the reasoning for it should actually be taught in schools, but they don't want to teach people in schools why houses are more expensive. Now, there's many reasons why houses can be more expensive in one place than another. Like, for instance, the invention of Airbnb. This is a technological advancement which allows people to easily rent their houses. So people that had a lot of money to invest, they bought more houses in order to rent. That's just technological advancement. Nothing you can do about it. But then you also have the pandemic, where they make an eviction moratorium, where if you have like tenants in your house, you're not allowed to kick them out. But if you have a rent, a mortgage, and you can't pay it, then the bank can foreclose on you, right? So a lot of people were told that they can't go to work, and all of a sudden they had to sell their shit. So Guess who bought it? Oh, BlackRock bought it, right? And the slumlords bought it. And then this was like something that leftists would cheer at the time. It's like, yes, we're sticking it to the landowner. But they were sticking it to like the landowner that's like a grandma and happens to have two houses, or like, the individual, the lonely guy that just has like one extra apartment to rent. While the people actually profiting were the hedge funds and the people that were buying houses. And then you also have the housing association, which do not allow for high-rise apartments to be built next to their houses because they don't want their value to go down, so on and so forth, right? But the essence of it, the reality, the reason that some places are more expensive than others is due to supply and demand. Now you don't need to actually understand economics in order to figure this shit out. You don't need to go to a university in order to understand what supply and demand means. You can basically imagine what would you do if you wanted to sell your house right now. So like, assuming you don't have anyone else to talk to, assuming you cannot just pick up a phone and call a real estate agent, right? If you want to sell your house, how do you do it? Well, how do you know how much your house is worth? And the reality is that you would probably have to find out what was the price of the nearest house similar to yours in your neighborhood and how much that did it get sold for, right? So you're basically finding out, okay, well, 2 months ago, my neighbor sold a house for $100,000 and it looks similar to mine. So this is probably the price that I should ask for my own house, right? So you put it at $100,000. Now, several things can happen. Number one, for an entire year, no one calls. Like, not a single person calls, no one is interested, no one wants to buy your house. So what do? Well, you're going to lower the price, right? Like, you're going to say, okay, well, I'm going to put it to $90,000. Or I'm going to put it to $80,000. And eventually, someone will call, and the value that you get, that is the price for your house. That is how much your house is worth. Why is your house worth lower than what you initially asked? Because there was no demand. No one came, no one was interested, so you had to lower the price all the way until someone was willing to buy it, right? Now, let's assume the same scenario. You're putting up your house for $100,000, and then the next day you get 20 phone calls. You get 20 phone calls and everyone is interested. Now you're like, okay, well, hold on a little bit. I haven't signed the contract with anyone. I'm not basically saying that I'm selling to anyone. Why can't I put the price at $150? And you're putting the price at $150, and the next day you still get 10 phone calls. They're like, okay, well, holy shit, like so many people are interested. Okay, well, I'm going to put it at $200,000. And eventually, when you put it at $200,000, you get only 3 phone calls. And okay, so my house is worth around $200,000, even though a neighbor sold his for $100,000, right? Why is this a thing? Because the demand was really high. The demand was ridiculously high, to the point where you could afford to double the amount of cash that you would have initially asked. This is what supply and demand does, right? Now, let's assume that in an economy, you have the government saying, yeah, we're going to help people with $25,000 in down payment for the first-time home buyers. What do you think this does with the demand? Does the demand remain the same? Does it go up or does it go down? The reality is now there's more people wanting to buy houses. The government hasn't constructed more houses, so the supply is still the same. It's just that the demand is bigger. So now the prices for houses for everybody is going to go up by around $25,000. Because there's more people that can afford it now. So this is what the government does. Every single time it fucks with the economy. It sounds good on paper, right? Like, it sounds great. But the problem is, like, okay, you're going to go as a first home buyer, and you're now going to get the first $25,000. Well, if you're at the beginning of the project, if you're literally after Kamala Harris got in office, chances are you're good. Like, you'll be very happy with this decision. But after 2 or 3 years, after the market stabilizes and after the demand skyrockets, then all the houses will go up in value, right? So this thing is really great for the BlackRocks that can just buy more houses in a short time knowing that the price will go up. And once the price goes up, they can sell them. And they can make a lot of cash. So this is why they're doing this, right? Like, on one hand, they're not informing the public of what this is. That they're making the public think that the prices will go down and houses will be more affordable. False. And on the second part is the people which have a lot of money and understand how the economy works. They are going to buy, they are going to invest, and then their prices are going to go up and they're going to make more money. So let me know what you guys think. And as usual, I will see you in the comment section. Take care.